Hey guys, this is Clinton Jeff from UnleashThePhones.com, and this is just a quick video to explain the differences between the Xiaomi Mi4 and the Xiaomi Mi4i. Now, because of the branding used, the Mi4i might appear just to be a plastic version of the regular Xiaomi Mi4. In fact, I'm not even really sure why Xiaomi chose to use the Mi4 branding for this phone, because it really is quite different. Not just in terms of the materials used to make this phone, but in terms of specs as well. So I figured why not make a video to explain the differences between these two phones with very similar names. I mean, not only are the names the same, but even the boxes are exactly the same size. So yeah, here's the difference between the Xiaomi Mi4 and the Xiaomi Mi4i. Okay, so there are 6 main differences between the Mi4 and the Mi4i. First up, the most obvious difference between the two has to be the materials used. So the Mi4 is more flagship-like with its premium metal and glass used all around, which really makes it feel like a very high-end device. The Mi4i, on the other hand, is made out of a plastic polycarbonate all around. Xiaomi uses the term unibody because you can't really remove that back panel, at least not very easily. This will come in both matte and glossy colors eventually. The white version is going on sale first, then the black version, and then hopefully more colors. But the phone still feels like something that should cost way more than it should, in my opinion. It's not really quite flagship level, but it is very decent build quality for sure. In fact, the most obvious comparison would be to say that the Xiaomi Mi4i does feel a lot like the iPhone 5C, which it does. Of course, when you get your hands on the glossy version of this, you guys might probably agree. The Mi4i will also come in a whole bunch of fun colors, just like the iPhone 5C later on. I'm particularly fond of a Ferrari red version that Xiaomi showed me, but they're not entirely sure of releasing that color just yet. But hey, both devices are also portable enough to be very easily usable with one hand. They both boast a very beautiful 5-inch 1080p display, though the display on the Xiaomi Mi4i does seem to be slightly better in my opinion, with much better, deeper blacks, and all in all, I think Xiaomi's used a better quality display on the Mi4i. Xiaomi also has a new sunlight display technology which they're using on the Mi4i, which isn't available on the regular Mi4, unfortunately. The second major difference, of course, is internals. The Mi4 is powered by a quad-core 2.5 GHz Snapdragon 801 processor with 3 GB of RAM, which means that it's quite a fast little flagship phone, and multitasking is really smooth and quick. In comparison, the Mi4i is powered by a second generation octa-core 64-bit Snapdragon 615 processor with 2 GB of RAM. So it's still quick overall, and there's no really slowdowns at any point. In fact, you won't really notice much of a difference unless you run the same tasks on both of these phones right next to each other. Both also have 16 GB of internal memory with no microSD card slot, though the regular Mi4 comes in a 64 GB version as well. But Xiaomi isn't entirely sure of releasing a 64 GB version of the Mi4i just yet. So yes, in terms of performance, the regular Mi4 is much quicker and much more powerful, but the Mi4i is still very quick for a phone in its price range. All the apps and games I ran on the Mi4i ran just fine, but if you're a benchmark nut, this might be a huge difference versus the regular Mi4. The third difference has to do with software. The regular Xiaomi Mi4 runs MIUI 6 based on Android 4.4 KitKat, whereas the MIUI 6 running on the Mi4i is based on Android Lollipop. Though honestly, the UI is exactly the same in both these phones, so you really won't notice much of a difference. At least I didn't notice any difference in the UI. So I don't really think that's a big deal at all. Alrighty, the fourth difference between both devices has to do with the front-facing camera. The regular Mi4 has an 8 megapixel front-facing camera, which as you can see is more wide-angle than the front-facing camera on the Mi4i. The Mi4i uses a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, but as you can see, there's a huge difference because it isn't quite as wide angle as the regular Mi4. Both phones have 13 megapixel cameras at the back, though the regular Mi4 has a 13 megapixel Sony or Samsung camera sensor with a f1.8 aperture and a 6-element lens with a single chroma flash module at the back. The Mi4i has a dual tone, dual LED flash at the back with the same Sony or Samsung camera sensor. There's also an f2.0 aperture and a 5-element lens at the back. The fifth difference between both these phones has to do with the battery used. The regular Mi4 has a 3080 mAh battery, while the Mi4i has a much larger 3120 mAh battery, which means considering the size of the screens are the same and the processor is less intensive, the Mi4i battery should last much longer. And finally, the last difference between both these phones has to do with the price. The regular Mi4 is selling at a price of 17,999 here in India for the 16GB version, while the Xiaomi Mi4i is selling at a price of 12,999 for the 16GB version. So quite a price difference between the two, but as I mentioned, there is also a 64GB version of the Mi4 which is also on sale here. One more bonus difference, at least for the version sold here in India, is that the Mi4i is a dual SIM phone, and not only is it a dual SIM phone, but both SIM card slots support Indian LTE bands, whereas the regular Mi4 does not support Indian LTE bands at all. That's a pretty huge difference between both these phones. At the end of the day, just like the regular Mi4, the Xiaomi Mi4i seems like it is just incredible value for money. They both have their own pros and cons, but hopefully this video helped explain the differences between both these phones to you. Personally, if you had asked me which is the better phone, I would have a hard time deciding. The Mi4 regular does feel a lot more premium, but the Mi4i does a lot of amazing stuff for that price tag. So it really is quite the tough choice here. Alright, so that's the differences between the Xiaomi Mi4 and the Xiaomi Mi4i. As always, if you guys have any questions about these two phones, let me know right in the comment section below. I actually already have a review of the regular Mi4 that I posted right over at UnleashThePhones.com. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. But hey, I am working on my review of the Xiaomi Mi4i. As always guys, if you want any more information about these phones, you can let me know right in the comment section below or right over at UnleashThePhones.com. And as always, if you like this video, maybe hit that like button or maybe subscribe, because that would be appreciated. And that's about it. Thanks for watching guys.